Welcome back to the Krown crypto channel, wishing you a happy daily start to the site's Dumpola. It's a Dumpola Friday. We're ending the week on a bit of a down note right here, at least early on in the day, and want to discuss what the overall situation is looking like for Bitcoin, that continuation of the 2-day time frame analysis, as Bitcoin has been continually closing below the pivot, which does obviously mean that lower is more likely. And other than that, I want to once again give the spotlight to the buyback promotion going on. They got 0% on maker fees for derivative contract orders. Plus, you can even get the July for free for the first 30 days, although I can't say it properly myself. Anyways, you can find a link to that in the description below, as well as directions. And then, of course, because Bybit's gone KYC, as are most exchanges, you can also find an affiliate link to Bybit's decentralized exchange arm called Apex, which may or may not be relevant to you, which also will award you 5% off of your maker fees for the lifetime of your account. All right, sweet. Let's just jump right into it. Starting off right in over here. This is a 2-day time frame analysis. We've been on this one basically since it started to become relevant, right around this region over here, which was about at the start of this month. Anyways, in this case, the setup is this. Anytime that we have seen 2-day time frame volatility represented by the BBWP indicator over here get to 10 percentile or lower, the expansion phase that naturally follows from that extreme low has led to an average move of about 27%. We can actually break this down by long and short, which we will do soon enough. Over the course of about 19 days, and the stochastic oscillator has been correcting getting the direction of that volatility expansion about 81.5% of the time. Now, of course, as long as the 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator was pointed to the downside, which it did start in early May, that has had a higher probability for downside momentum here, or higher probability for downside momentum, obviously downside momentum, but higher probability for breaking down from that from that upper $20,000 region. Now, in the past few days here, we were looking at a potential for a little bit of a short-term bounce. Looks like that's not going to be, not going to be in the cards right here, or at least, that move to $28,000 or 28.3 or 28.5, whatever it was, I suppose was it, which was, okay, I suppose. But ultimately, higher term timeframes like the 2-day timeframe right here taking over. And as you can see, the 2-day timeframe stochastic oscillator remains with its downside momentum as long as Bitcoin is closing below 28,400. So assuming that Bitcoin does not have a heroic reclaim of 28,400 by end of day here, that pivot will continue to move down, and downside becomes, downside continuation still the more likely thing to be happening right here. Anyways, we can now go ahead and reference the quantitatively derived statistics over here and look at only the short side of this setup, because obviously, long and short side, there should be a little bit of deviation there. And I thought this was rather interesting, and I'm about to sneeze because I got allergies and all right, I've just psyched myself out of it, I guess. Anyways, did a full breakdown over the full history of Bitcoin whenever we have seen this setup, of which there's been 19 of these prior setups in Bitcoin's history, and of those 19, 16 played out with some pretty severe downside moves, giving it about an 84 and almost 0.25% hit rate, meaning that the direction of the stochastic oscillator did correlate to, significant downside price action. Over the course of an average of 14 days, again, this would just be for obviously the for the short side. And of course, if we were to look at just the average return for the short side, just under 26% as well, with a standard deviation of about 8%. So that'd give us a range for the first standard deviation between about 18.75% all the way up to 34%, again, with the average just under 26%. So coming into it right on over here and deciphering exactly when this one's, really started to fire off, which would have been on this high over here, we can start to take those measurements from. And of course, if Bitcoin goes for the mean, like right on the average, that would imply Bitcoin somewhere down around about $22,000. Yeah, somewhere around like low to mid $22,000. Now, again, that would be the average. On the lower end, we have seen as shallow of a move as about 18.5 to 18.75, of which, what would that look like on top of current price action? 18% would put Bitcoin where? Would put Bitcoin basically just below $25,000. And then, of course, on the upper end, well, if things get really, really crazy, which I actually don't think this is very likely, but if it were to, 34% would actually put Bitcoin back down below $20,000. Pretty much in alignment with this last low that we did see in March. So I do think that, just personally speaking, if I'm giving my personal opinion on this one, the two most likely areas are the two first ones that we spoke about. Obviously, just below $25,000, and then you got about $22,000 if that one does fail as well. But here's the thing: as long as this condition is being fulfilled over here, I will continue to look lower, and bounces on the lower term timeframes are probably just that, bounces before setting up for another drive lower here, with those sort of areas of interest in mind, or somewhere around there, like reasonably close to it. So again, 28,400, this one does close tonight. So it'll be very, very interesting to see where that pivot lands tomorrow, because it will naturally change. And assuming that it doesn't come down like too close to current price action, that would again indicate that continuation going to be more likely. So we'll follow up on that one tomorrow. Anyways, now that we've gone through that, I wanted to follow up on the setup, or not the setups, but the sort of indicator signals that we're looking at over here. We're looking at the daily jewel on CME and spot price action for that matter, as another indication that, hey, daily higher term timeframes still, looking more down than not, supported by DMI over here as it does turn red. And I think that, well, that kind of speaks for itself. Daily bearish divergence, we call this one out. This was like at the beginning of the week, I believe, or yeah, somewhere around, I guess it was beginning of the week in this case. Playing out as well, to be fair. And if we go over into stochastic momentum, we can now go and reference the daily time frame, which is still showing downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's closing below 28,500. Actually, about the same pivot as the 2-day time frame. So higher term time frames not looking too hot right there. 5-day time frame actually also nosediving below 29,000 bucks. And then if we go into like the medium and lower term time frame, starting off with the 12-hour over here, we can see that it's actually still showing downside momentum. But do keep in mind that these sort of medium and lower term time frames, they're really, 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 really deep into the critical zone. So is Bitcoin going to have a short-term bounce like relatively soon? Probably, yeah. But it could just be like the one that we saw earlier this week, where it's like, hey, I'm looking for a bounce here, but to be fair, like, was $1,000? Well, it was $1,000. Okay, fair enough. In my mind, it wasn't like that significant, but $1,000, yeah. Let's say significant, or 1,500 off that 2,700 low to 28,500 or so. Anyways, in this case, 12-hour time frame going to be showing again downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's below 27, but within the critical zone right here. Really wouldn't take too much to get a bounce on the on a time frame like this. 6-hour time frame, same thing as well, although actually having a fresh twist to the downside, showing downside momentum as long as Bitcoin's going below 27,130. 4-hour time frame also going to be doing that. I believe the same thing. Indeed it is. Again, back down here into the critical zone, 27,300 or so going to be the current pivot, and hourly time frame is going to be showing downside as well, actually below 26,700. So what does that suggest? It does suggest that we do, if this one is going to truly break down, it continues today. Kind of what we've been saying over the past over this past week. It's like, hey, right now the ball's in the bear's court. If things are going to break down, we expect it like sooner rather than later this week. The longer that Bitcoin goes sideways above about 27, the more inherently bullish it would be getting. But it really needs to survive into the end of the weekend / early next week, and that's looking more and more unlikely right here. I mean, it's just not looking likely at all, if anything. Anyways, now that we've gone through that, I did want to go over the HPDR range indicators. In fact, Caretaker, oh my god, man, this guy, this evil genius, he's actually a benevolent genius. In fact, he's put together a few more new things as well, which I look very much forwards to presenting soon enough. But in this case, the 12-hour HPDR indicator still being a pretty damn good governor and guide as to what the current ranges are. Median coming in just below 28,000 bucks, same thing as yesterday. Bottom side of the current 50% range showing about 26,500, which you can see Bitcoin's ever so slightly bounced off of thus far. But looking at it right, damn allergies. By the way, thank you for seriously, this is really annoying. Thank you for all of the home remedies that people have been sending over. I've actually tried quite a few of them, and they definitely do help. It's just it's so early this morning that my eyes are really itchy right now, and I haven't had a chance to go address that. But yeah, showing the current bottom side of the range at about 26.5. Again, I guess the last hopium play would be to say that, hey, Bitcoin has a chance to bounce from this region still. Make your own decisions based upon that. But of course, breaking below here, I just don't think that there's any more hopium in the more near term. And in the next range low would actually be pointing us down just below that $25,000 number. So 25 or a little bit below 25, looking increasingly more and more likely. Again, especially as long as Bitcoin's below 28,000 bucks or even the daily and 2-day pivot. which probably moves somewhere down around 28,000 bucks in the in the next day, I'd imagine. So again, assuming that Bitcoin does not have a heroic reclaim back above, let's say 28, I'd say latest, like full hopium included, would be like end of this weekend, Sunday. Then yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm looking further down. I'm sure a lot of people are going to call this a head and shoulders as well. And, there is some merit, or there is merit to that. I believe that we called it out as well, but certainly not like the main part of my analysis. But yeah, you got a double left shoulder over here, double right shoulder over here, regular head over here. And, there is a measure move to be made off of that as well, which I believe is pointed down. Let's see, just kind of eyeballing it right here. Actually lower than, or let me actually get this right. Yeah, like mid 24s, potentially. So something like that. Again, not like my favorite way of doing things, but ultimately does look like Bitcoin is setting up for a bit of a May pullback here, or already pulling back, obviously, but continuation more and more likely. So I think I'll leave this one on that particular note. Again, full hopium, as long as Bitcoin's below 28, all bounces are just that, bounce before, likely heading lower, with areas of interest just below 25 and kind of layered between there and about, let's say, mid 22. So yeah, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. I'm going to be on a Spaces. I'm going to space, baby, with Jason Pizzino in just about 30 minutes here as well. So we'll be discussing this and more. And now that I recognize it, our Dixie bounce is playing out as well. That regular bullish divergence finally starting to take hold, and I expect that this one does drive higher into the next into the next few weeks here. Yeah, good place to be leaving off. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.